I see you.
Local58. They are a YouTube horror anthology web series created by web cartoonist and author Chris Straub, whom is a host of the YouTube channel. Each video in the series is presented as footage of a fictional public access television channel located in Mason County, West Virginia, named Local58, with the call sign WCLV-TV. It was created in the late 1930s. It is continuously hijacked over a period of decades, with a series of broadcasts of ominous and surreal videos. While the series does not appear to have a continuous plot, nearly every episode seems to include cryptic references relating to looking at the moon or at the night sky, as well as references to the in-universe organization known as the Thought Research Initiative. The series makes use of video and audio degradation to add to the realism and unsettling nature of each video, and this channel describes itself as analog horror, a term that has since been used as a name for a niche subgenre, and it's of similar VHS-themed found footage web series that were either inspired by Local58, or they use a similar style and techniques to the series. This channel was also originally hosted on the now dysfunctional web domain local58.info, but thankfully all of the videos have made it to YouTube, and the series has since gained a cult following. So, another website, local58.tv, was released in September 2021, which serves as an extension of the main storyline. The website features a look-back web archive, similar to the web archive service Wayback Machine. It features numerous Easter eggs and plot points for an associated alternate reality game that offers further detail onto the series' continuity, and I think it's time that we delve deep into these episodes. Today, we shall be discussing a channel that is shrouded in mystery, as well as one of the kickstarters of the analog horror trend. Now, what exactly is analog horror, you may ask? Well, it's a subgenre of found footage that mimics the older analog style of video media, such as old TV shows, VHS tapes, or vintage films, as well as adding horror elements to the video to create feelings of unease, fear, and discomfort in the viewer. Local58, however, was the one to popularize this genre, given the content that was provided. There are also other examples of this genre, such as the Walton Files, Blue Channel, Mandela Catalog, and those FNAF video clips that somehow encapsulate fear better than the actual games in my opinion. Now, as much as I wish to cover these channels as well as videos, it would take a lot of research, as well as time and effort to put together in full. But in the future, I can most definitely try to invest my precious time into these beautifully crafted channels. Now, with that being said, we shall be delving into the origin, as well as the lore that lies beneath this channel that has floated around the web for quite some time. One channel that is mysterious, but also magnificent in its own right. And one channel that some can say is the father of the current analog horror trend. Let us begin the tale of the one and only Local58. Thank you all for stopping by today. Make sure you leave a subscribe, leave a like, and I hope you all enjoy this video. Let us begin with episode 1, named Weather Service. A programming schedule broadcast at midnight is interrupted by an EAS message from the County Weather Service, warning viewers of a meteorological event taking place, and advising people not to look at the event until the alert expires. Normal programming resumes, but it is interrupted again by a more urgent EAS bulletin. The station is then hijacked, with the hijacker altering the EAS messages, claiming that the meteorological event is safe and that the warning has been lifted. They then directly urge viewers to go look outside. A struggle to gain control over the station then appears to take place between the initial broadcasters and the hijacker. While almost being completely obscured, the first party frantically attempts to issue warnings to the viewers while the second attempts to cut off these messages. Local58 briefly returns to normal programming for a few seconds before a final sequence of EAS messages air, in which it appears that the second party has been successful in gaining control of the station, and they would post a sequence of delirious, cryptic messages, detailing how they were brainwashed by what appears to be the moon itself. After initiating a final message, the feed cuts to a live view of the moon, while distant sounds of people screaming are heard, before cutting to black.
Episode 2. Contingency. The station signs off for the day and starts broadcasting SMPTE bars. The broadcast is then interrupted with an emergency alert from the fictional Department of the Preservation of American Dignity, or the DPAD, and a written message from President Lyndon B. Johnson set to the Star-Spangled Banner, claiming that the military of the United States has been defeated by that of a foreign nation. The message, printed on a tell-up slide, states that all Americans are called upon to act, to preserve the memory of the United States clear and bright, untarnished and uncompromised. After the message concludes, a heavily distorted rendition of My Country, 'Tis of Thee plays as the broadcast continues. The DPAD urges viewers to commit mass suicide to prevent the enemy force from capturing them. After informing viewers that local law enforcement are to ensure your compliance and that it is against the law to delay, implying that anyone who resists the order to commit suicide shall be executed. The broadcast then states that it will repeat until there are none to read it, and recommends by gunshot. They also suggest, if time allows, the victory position, a ritualistic posture where at least one person lays flat on their back on their front lawn before shooting themselves. After instructing viewers to euthanize their children and pets, then delivering the statement that the 51st state is not a place, the erroneous broadcast is suddenly halted. Local58 airs a retraction claiming that the message was a hoax and apologizes for the error. However, visible behind the message is a second slide instructing the station to claim the footage was a hoax in the event of an accidental broadcast, indicating that everything seen up to the hoax slide was a real contingency plan intended for use if such events were ever to take place in reality.
Episode 3. You are on the fastest available route. A schedule for the channel abruptly cuts to static and gets replaced by footage from a dashcam recorded on November 21st, 2014, involving a driver following a GPS satnav. The drive mostly consists of the GPS's directions, and it informing the driver that they are on the fastest available route. After a while, the footage cuts to the driver driving through the middle of a forest on an unpaved road, with the GPS's directions having become increasingly suspicious, instructing the driver to follow the no entry signs, to continue on an unnamed road and to park the car and to turn off the headlights. Having followed every instruction without fail, the driver complies, bringing the car to a complete stop with the lights out. After a few seconds, a loud roar can be heard. The driver quickly turns the headlights back on to reveal a bipedal creature on the road. The feed suddenly cuts to the driver, driving away from the creature with the GPS repeatedly telling the driver to turn around. The GPS rapidly counts down the distance in feet as the roars become louder, revealing the creature itself to be the destination. After abruptly freezing, the feed then cuts forward to the car now lying sideways with the windshield cracked. One last roar is heard as the feed glitches out, with the GPS finally announcing in a slow, malfunctioning tone that the driver has arrived at their destination.
Episode 4. Station ID. The video consists of a series of cryptic messages which read the following. Analog horror at 476 MHz. We begin our broadcast day. Look away, it does not matter. There are other receivers, safety in numbers. The video then abruptly cuts to black.
Episode 5, Show for Children. A programming schedule transitions to a bumper, and then to a rubber hose animation cartoon titled A Grave Mistake, which features a skeleton named Cadaver. The cartoon opens with Cadaver walking through a graveyard at night, with the moon smiling overhead. He comes across an open grave, and wonders if his lover may be inside, with him peeking in. Inside the grave is a realistic skeleton, which frightens Cadaver and causes him to run away. He finds another grave and decides to check inside again, only to be frightened by a bird-like creature. As the soundtrack completely cuts out, Cadaver, now visibly tense, continues through the graveyard while the moon stares down at him. He looks into another grave and descends into it, entering a cave. After wandering through the cave for some time, he reaches another open grave. Exhausted and unable to climb out, Cadaver lays face up on the ground, and from his perspective, a giant, realistic rendering of the moon can be seen over the whole of the grave. The view cuts back to Cadaver, who has seemingly died and turned into a lifeless, realistic skeleton.
Episode 6, A Look Back. A compilation of the history of Local58 shuffling through the fictional channel's various past logos in chronological order gets hijacked, and messages begin to flash on the screen similar to those shown in Station ID. The broadcast then becomes a montage of short clips from previous episodes of the series, intercut with glitched footage of normal television broadcasts. After a few more messages are shown, the station's broadcasting returns to normal.
Episode 7, Real Sleep. A VHS recording made by the Thought Research Initiative begins playing and starts with a simple myth or fact game about sleeping, claiming that dreaming is not essential to mental health. It then displays a visual of monitored brainwaves called the Clayton map, implying that the video was personally designed to prevent dreams by applying an inverse of the map. The video then cuts to a segment where 4 sequences are introduced in a manner similar to the flashed face distortion effect. Sequence 1 tells the viewer to look directly at the center of the screen as faces flash at the viewer. Sequence 2 has 2 faces slowly merge until the face fades away. Then, Sequence 3 instructs the viewer to repeat the phrase, "There are no faces," several times as heavily distorted faces flash onto the screen. Sequence 4 then begins to flash a number of ominous subliminal messages, while the quote, "There are no faces," repeats one more time, eerily slowed down. The video concludes with the viewer being told that they now have completed the real sleep program, and to avoid seeing a doctor.
Episode 8, Skywatching. Following a broadcast schedule, an episode of Skywatching begins, but is suddenly cut out, accompanied by the sound of a high-pitched, distorted scream. The footage is replaced by an amateur broadcast by a man taking footage of the night sky through his camera. The man aims the camera at Orion's belt and the Pleiades, then, after changing his camera lens, begins filming the moon, referring to it as his throne, by on-screen text. The cameraman then shows close-ups of the moon's surface with moving clouds, seemingly organic formations, and strange artificial constructions. The moon then fades away. As the cameraman changes his lens again, a loud noise can be heard as the moon reappears, now of far larger size. A thunderbolt, air raid siren sounds, and the cameraman adjusts the brightness of the camera pointing at the moon, showing its southern hemisphere cracked open and revealing the body of a gigantic skeletal organism inside. The cameraman then walks towards the moon with his hands raised as the siren abruptly cuts out. On-screen text then appears saying "Rejoice" before the screen cuts to static.
Episode 9, Digital Transition. On July 13th, 2021, Local58 is preparing to undergo a digital switchover at midnight, following the conclusion of a normal airing of an episode of One Step Beyond. The channel then airs a tribute bumper depicting numerous eras of the station's 82-year history and its broadcasts. The end of the bumper shows Local58's new logo, with an extended tagline, "Community Digital Television." The switchover takes place, but as the clock passes midnight, the broadcast becomes increasingly corrupted, and the analog signal persists, visible behind that of a digital signal's output, insisting that the digital switchover has been postponed. The entity controlling the analog signal then begins broadcasting a sequence of cryptic messages themed around betrayal, alongside footage from weather service. Having gained control over the station's digital signal, the entity issues another sequence of messages alluding to its connection with the moon. A distorted face appears on screen before the broadcast cuts out entirely, hastily replaced with a legal warning from the FCG, an in-universe agency based on the real-world FCC, about unauthorized analog reception. And this was the last episode from the channel, at least for now. In conclusion, Local58 is what I may call a short but sweet channel. And what I mean is the fact it has accomplished so many elements of horror, just from old-fashioned analog-style editing alone. The ambiance, the music, and the overall themes as well as images provided. And when this channel came into play, several creators would be baffled and react to the incredible work the host would put out, with it performing so well that it led to other creators doing similar. A few more channels come into mind, although there is one other one that I do wish to investigate in the near future. One that is still continuous, and some would say is even more eerie than Local58. And this channel is named But that's for the future, of course, and since there are so many other projects I have in mind, I will eventually get to the bottom of that channel. With that being said, thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to leave a subscribe onto this channel if you enjoyed what you saw, and don't forget to leave a like. Have yourselves a good morning, a good afternoon, and I hope you all have yourselves a good night.